based on those hundreds upon thousands upon millions of connections made by people one at a time. People just like you. Thank you for listening.
Okay, we've got time for several questions, so I've asked people to make the questions concise. I'm going to take 3 at a time, so I see you would like to ask questions. Right, so I'll go to you first. Dean, is there anyone else? Okay, we'll go to Dean first. Yeah, okay, and Dante first. Okay, Dean.
You talked a lot about the special relationship between Britain and the US, and I think that's something that's very much treasured by the British government, and it's something that's very much promoted. But when it comes to some decisions, and Iraq, whatever you felt about it, we decided to we're on the same side. But it sometimes feels that the relationship from the American side isn't as valued, and sometimes the British government is taken more for sort of granted. And I just wondered what your thoughts were.
I think 200 years ago, Europe kicked our lieutenants.
I'm sorry, 200 years ago?
200 years ago, Europe kicked our lieutenants or completely the country. And we personally felt we were one of the more benign colonial powers. But we made mistakes, we insensitivity, hubris, and we had a little called George and Charlotte at the time. Do you take comfort from our ability to regroup, learn from our mistakes, and then sally forth into another glorious century? The 19th century.
Okay.
I actually just wanted to ask, having spent time with more politics, do you think that the upcoming primary and then presidential elections will impact the State Department's policy here in the UK?
I apologize, I'm not going to answer for your time. Special relationship, how is it looked at from the American side? Let me just tell you, when I got this job, I was in the briefings. They told me, Mr. Ambassador Designate, or whatever they called me, there are 18,000 official visitors every year from the U.S. And I thought, I'll never get any sleep. And it turns out that we have a wonderful staff, between 700 and 800 people. And they spend a great deal of their time dealing with those visitors. But I think to a certain extent, I hope that answers your question. People from federal, state, and local officials and their staffs who come to London every year. And the reason, they come for a lot of reasons, but the main reason is they have a relationship with someone as their counterpart in the government, whether it be intelligence, military, business, cultural. One of my favorite stories was an Undersecretary of Agriculture who came and I said, "What are you here?" And he said, "Well, the Secretary of Agriculture has commissioned me to work on obesity, and it's a big problem, as you know, Mr. Ambassador, in the United States." I said, of course, I agreed, having put on some weight since I've been here. But he said, it's a problem in the UK, and I'm here to study or talk to my UK counterpart about it and what they're doing. So I think, and I'm not sure that's a good way to spend U.S. tax dollars, but I think that's, American officials feel so comfortable that that they do come here and take that very seriously. And I think the relationship at the higher level is very much, the President has continued to talk on a really weekly basis with the Prime Minister. Secretary of State speaks on a weekly basis when they're both available to with European Foreign Secretary David Miliband. And when there are things, for instance, when I got here, we had frankly not recognized, we had not ratified the extradition treaty. And I think it looked at a bit of a problem. And when we pointed that out to the heads of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, they got working on it and it was ratified unanimously. So I think that we do take, we see in the United States, the United Kingdom is our best friend and best ally in the world. And there are just thousands and millions of contacts every year. You know, the second question, I apologize for my hearing. I didn't quite, I heard what you said. Your glorious century followed
we make mistakes. We lost a major part of our national prestige, but we learned from our mistakes.
Right.
For instance, 30 years later, we were fighting completely.
Right.
When we bounced that. Do you take comfort from that?
Oh, do I take comfort from that? Of course. I think there was a glorious century, and it was not glory century for the United Kingdom in terms of some of their victories, but it was a peaceful century, secondly, and there were great expansion in the economy. I mean, we really lifted thousands of people, even in Scotland, out of poverty, and it was it was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. It brought a lot of problems that took us both countries a long time to work on. We're still working on it, but it was possible.
That's the urbanization happens.
Primary and the presidential elections. There will be a new president in January of 2000. And will there be differences? Yes, there will be. There'll be new people. There'll be a new ambassador. There'll be new people throughout the State Department. For those of you who are not aware of it, we have a much higher percentage than most democratic countries of non-career appointments. People who go in and out of government. I suppose I'm an example, having been in business, worked in government, gone back to business and private life, and then I came back into government. So, sure, will there be differences? Will there be changes? Yes, I don't think that there will be major changes. I happen to think that, especially, for instance, let's just assume for a second that Hillary Clinton has got a good chance to get the Democratic nomination. A little bit, and I spend most of my time working on U.S.-UK issues, but as I read about Senator Clinton, it doesn't seem in many cases that her positions on foreign policy are different from the current administration. Some of the other candidates, yes, the differences are greater, but I tend to think that these policies have been worked on and they're well established, and so when the new administration comes in, those are what presented with them and what they mainly have to deal with. But there certainly will, and as it's been proven, as I'm sure you're a student of history, there are changes from time to time in administrations.
Okay, and I think we'll take 3 more quick questions, and then we'll have to wrap up so I can see you right. Yeah, and then we'll wrap there, and we'll finish next time. Okay. So.
I was wondering what the U.S. point was on Turkey wanting to be the EU, seeing as it's an important type of program for, seeing as Turkey has been such an important, helpful aid during the Iraq War military operations. How does the U.S. support or not support EU, Turkey's wanting to enter the EU?
President Bush in 2003 signed a memorandum stating that no Taliban or Al-Qaeda detainee being held at the Guantanamo Bay detention facility will qualify as a prisoner of war. Thus, the Article 3 of the Geneva Convention, which requires the right to a fair trial and prohibits torture, cruelty, and outrage on personal dignity, need not apply. However, as of 2006, the US Supreme Court, in its Hamilton decision, claimed that the article does indeed apply. In light of such, the US should not close down the facility, grant inmates the right to a fair trial, and start living up to its human rights obligations.
Okay.
Well, I know there's some concerns with security having to do with student visas and job permits and things like this. And I was just wondering if these things are such a problem, and I know they affect a lot of us in this room, can anything be done about it? And
Okay. One more round of questions.
Turkey, we have, I think, said and made it quite clear that ultimately this decision is up to the EU, not to the United States.